This session is a two-part presentation. Part 1 is Importance of Data, an End User's Perspective, presented by Kevin Durkee of the South Coast AQMD. And Part 2 is What Users Want, presented by Joe Tona of Tehama County APCD.
Good morning and welcome to Part 1 of the presentation on the importance of monitoring data from the end user perspective. Joe Tona of Tehama County APCD will present Part 2. I'm Kevin Durkee, the Quality Assurance Manager in the Monitoring and Analysis Division at South Coast AQMD. For much of my career at South Coast, I was a monitoring data end user, conducting analyses to provide air quality information and forecasts to the public, as well as supporting regional air monitoring and air quality planning efforts. So who are the end users of our data? Simply put, they are anyone who uses our data to make decisions, all the way from public agencies to researchers, to elected officials, to the public in general. As you can see, it's a long list, including air quality agencies as well as stakeholders outside of our agencies. What are some of the objectives for our monitoring data? I have listed several that may apply to various types of air monitoring that we may do in our agencies. It's not an exhaustive list and they won't all apply to every project. Providing public air quality information is at the core of our mission as air quality agencies. Comparison to air quality standards and assessing progress is also quite important. The last two on this list can be found quite often in community plans for the AB 617 Community Air Protection Program. These pictures show examples of projects designed to monitor air pollution incidents and events, including on the left, smoke monitoring with EBAMs, and then the next sampling of toxic pollutants in support of emergency responders during an incident at an industrial facility. And on the bottom is an analysis from a mobile monitoring survey with a van-mounted optical remote sensing instrument at a petroleum processing facility. The graphic shows the spike in volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, downwind of the petroleum tanks. This data presentation example shows an analysis of the impact of Independence Day fireworks on hourly PM 2.5 and the increase of non-professional fireworks use during the pandemic period. This information will help to inform the public about pollution from fireworks, as well as the exceptional event analyses needed for the proper flagging of the PM data in the EPA Air Quality System database. An example of a special study data presentation is the South Coast AQMD's Multiple Air Toxics Exposure Studies, or MATES. This slide shows the significant improvement in air toxics cancer risk in the South Coast Air Basin from MATES 4 to MATES 5, which were about 6 years apart. The risk analysis is based on emissions inventories and comprehensive air toxics monitoring data at 10 fixed locations for a 12-month period. This map shows an example locations for community monitoring project for the Eastern Coachella Valley. This community is part of the California AB 617 Community Air Protection Program. The project will use AeroQual AQI sensors that collect PM10, PM 2.5, nitrogen dioxide, and ozone at locations determined by the Eastern Coachella Valley community. The sampling is designed to inform emissions reductions and to address community concerns. These include the Salton Sea odors and playa dust, open burning, fugitive road dust and off-road dust, and diesel mobile sources. This slide shows some examples of national ambient air monitoring programs. For these programs, monitoring, laboratory, and quality assurance activities are well defined through federal requirements and guidelines under US EPA's purview. Implementation of this monitoring is mainly by state, local, and tribal agencies with funding by EPA grants. Examples include the photochemical assessment monitoring stations, PAMs, and the National Air Toxic Trend Stations, or NATS. Another example is the Criteria Air Pollution Monitoring Program, which is the primary emphasis for most of us at this PQAO training. The term criteria pollutant refers to those that have National Ambient Air Quality Standards, or NAAQS. These include ozone, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, PM10, PM2.5, or lead. The image on the right of this slide shows the ozone monitor locations and the maximum air quality index values across the country on a summer day. The data presentation example on the left shows South Coast AQMD's trends for PM2.5 annual average design values, showing considerable improvement over the years and the progress needed before the 2025 attainment year. The example on the right is from the current air quality index map from South Coast AQMD's website during a recent summer afternoon ozone event, with the red showing unhealthy ozone levels. So why is criteria air monitoring data quality so important? Well, it's the law. First of all, it's required by regulations and grant commitments. The data is used to track progress towards attainment of national and state standards. This data informs important public policy decisions. These policy decisions can be costly and burdensome to the public. For example, the cost of implementing the 2016 South Coast Air Quality Management District's Air Quality Management Plan is estimated to be approximately $1 billion per year to attain the federal standards for ozone and PM2.5 by their respective deadlines. This data also informs personal health decisions, such as where to live, where to work, and where to recreate. What do the end users want and need? Well, what they want is answers. They want information that's accessible and timely. They want clear, understandable summaries and analyses. What they need is quality data. That data meets goals and objectives of the program or project, and it's also sufficiently accurate and defensible for the intended purpose. Most data users trust that we, in the monitoring realm, take care of quality data. The figure in the map at the bottom shows mapping of 8-hour ozone NAAQS exceedances over 3 years across the South Coast jurisdiction. People tend to like graphics like this that help point out to the best and worst places for air quality in an area. How do we ensure data quality? Well, basically the things in these boxes: program planning, training and SOPs, QC checks, calibrations, audits, corrective actions, data validation, data quality assessments, and reporting. You may notice that these boxes represent the quality assurance topics covered throughout presentations in this PQAO training. Please refer to the training schedule for more information on these presentations. So what are some ways that end users access monitoring data and information. There are many possibilities as listed. Some of the best data sources for use by all of us are the EPA, state, and local agency websites and data portals. The CARB AQMIS, Air Quality and Meteorological Information System, shown in the upper left here, has been a great resource for accessing continuous data very quickly. Online data displays and portals are developing rapidly as well, especially for the AB 617 community programs. EPA's airnow.gov website is a nice way to access current air quality data throughout the country. Mobile apps are quickly becoming popular for air quality information. Shown here is the South Coast AQMD phone app. Planning documents such as South Coast Air Quality Management Plan can also be great resources for air quality data summaries. And to finish up, I wanted to include some takeaways for monitoring groups from my perspective. One of the main things, communicate regularly with your data users at your agency especially, and in your PQAO. This helps keep everyone on the same page and avoids compounded problems. A robust data validation process greatly increases data end user confidence. Document monitoring issues and their resolution. In other words, embrace the corrective action process. Follow standard operating procedures and be mindful of data completeness. Your work really matters. It helps determine policy and regulation and impacts public health decisions and outcomes. So be proud of the work you do. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the training event.
Hello, my name is Joseph Tona, and I am with the Tehama County Air Pollution Control District. In this presentation, I'll be discussing data from an end user's perspective, or what end users want. 4 of the last 5 years broke records for wildfire. Our district has been surrounded by the Mendocino Complex, August Complex, Carr Fire, and now the Dixie Fire. I hope to provide some insight on what we have learned in order to provide data to the public. I'll be covering the following topics. Who are your end users? What end users want in getting data to the public? I'll also provide some real-world examples of how we've implemented this in the past. So if it's not obvious to you by now, I hope by the end of this PQAO conference it will be, but decision makers are relying on our data. There are some obvious decision makers like CARB and EPA. They are using our data to make attainment determinations for districts. They're using our data to make exceptional event determinations. It is important that our data meet quality standards required for CARB and EPA so that data collected for multiple districts and agencies is comparable. CARB and EPA are easy. Who are some other decision makers using our data? The Forest Service, CAL FIRE, Tribal, BLM, and other land managers are using our data. They may be using real-time data to ensure that prescribed fires are not impacting downwind communities, and air resources advisors are using our data to inform 24-hour and 48-hour outlooks for wildfire events. Schools are also using our data to make decisions. They're using our data to determine whether or not to hold PE, sports practice, games, or whether or not they should shut down due to wildfire smoke. Businesses are also using our data. For example, the agricultural sector uses our data to comply with recent OSHA wildfire smoke requirements. Finally, the general public is using our data. They're using our data to make sure their kids are safe. They're using it to look for a safe place to get away from the smoke. And they're using it when deciding how to cool their homes, either by opening a window, using a whole house fan, swamp cooler, or running their air conditioner. So how do we get end users the data that they want? For CARB and EPA, we participate in training opportunities like this PQAO conference, as well as CAPCO and monitoring group. Finding out what the general public, schools, and state and federal agencies want is a little harder. For these folks, you need to know what they're asking. Fortunately, there are several tools available to you for that. Our district has found web-based tools like Google Analytics to be very helpful. Google Analytics can show you who's accessing your website and what questions they're Googling to get them to our site. Pictured here is a snip from our analytics page. Depending on how it is set up, this page could provide you with a bunch of useful information. Here you can see that people are asking about wildfires burning in Tehama County, asking if it is a burn day, asking for fire maps, and viewing our health advisories. If you dig deeper, you can see where people are coming from. You can find out if they're visiting your site directly or if people are clicking on your social media posts on Facebook and Twitter. You can also see if they're coming from outside resources like the California Smoke blog. Another somewhat related tool are the various business portals provided by search engines like Google and Bing. Search engines are better at building these out for you than they were in the past, but they can still be inaccurate. While our address was correct, the pin marking our location was not. It did not point to our website, and our hours were not correct. All of these were an easy fix once we claimed our business. Spending the time to update this information on various search engines will help ensure that it's not only accurate, but that it points people to your resources. We like to keep an ear open during public comment at our workshops and board meetings. During these meetings, you can get valuable insight on the people that you serve. When we hear the same questions or comments, we stop and think about what resources we could develop to assist people in finding the data they need to answer their questions. Based on what we have heard, we've been able to provide resources to answer those questions or point people to outside resources so that they have the tools they need to educate themselves. We also participate in the Air Resources Advisory Meetings, also known as the 13 and 1400 calls, and work with district staff responsible for agricultural and prescribed fire programs. Deploying monitors to the correct location is very important. These two groups could provide an idea of which areas in our district should expect to see smoke impacts and may require additional monitoring. Take advantage of any opportunity to educate the public and fill the void with good information. If you're quiet, you're leaving an opening for misinformation to step in. So now we have an idea of what people are asking. Now we need to send our information, our messages to where our audience will listen. If the people and decision makers are using your website, work within your organization to make tools easier to find. For example, if people are landing on your webpage by Googling current air quality, post a prominent link. It's easy to find instead of a page that is buried within several submenus. Use social media. If you have access to your analytics, you'll be able to see how effective your messaging is. You'll be able to make changes or prioritize where your messages go or how they are delivered. You may learn that text messages are more effective than a social media post or vice versa. Take advantage of public meetings and local media. Use these opportunities to educate the public and point them to your resources. Also point users to trusted resources like Fire.air Now and the Smoke Spotter app, as well as your own resources. If you're going to link people to third-party data like Purple Air, give them a head start by setting up the link to the map with the most accurate scenario. So now we're providing the public with multiple sources of good quality data from our website or partners like AirNow. The next question will likely be, what health-based decisions should I be making? We've tried to provide good quality guidance to assist decision makers and the public to make well-educated decisions. An example of a good resource is the PQAO school guidance template. We worked with our local Office of Education and Health Department when implementing this for our district. We've also posted articles on our website providing guidance for creating clean air spaces, as well as articles describing how to use the AQI table. Some real-world examples. Our original site needed a lot of work. It had all the late 90s goodies like scrolling text and clip art. Our air quality data was 24 hours behind and finding it was difficult. Updating the site was clunky and required that users understand HTML, something most have not played with since editing their MySpace theme. Posting alerts and articles was not easy or user-friendly for both staff and the public. So we upgraded to the image you see at the top. The new site allowed us to post data in real time, post updates and advisories, write articles on how to protect yourself from wildfire smoke, and direct people to other resources. The backend is much easier for staff to update and does not require one to know HTML or scripting languages. On top of that, our old site would crash during wildfires because of heavy usage. Our server experienced 30 times the normal traffic during wildfire events. Here you can see the extreme change in air quality that we experienced between 2017 and 2021. Only considering PM 2.5, we've experienced about 78 days of poor air quality compared to 2012 to 2019, where we experienced only 5 days. Another example focused on the worst day of each year. Something to note is that in 2019, the worst day in 2019 was due to cold weather in December. We've also had mixed experiences using third-party data from sources like Purple Air. They have obvious benefits like being affordable and easy to deploy, but they have downsides like the conversion picker, which allows people to pick what they want to see. 6 people could view the Purple Air map and obtain 6 different values depending on the conversions that they choose. One item to note is that Purple Air data does tend to be health conservative, meaning that it reads higher even when correction factors are checked than our FEMs. That could be a good thing if you're planning a run, but this could be considered too much of a good thing. Schools may be using inflated data to close schools or school events. Cities may shut down planned events, and more recently, business owners may be implementing OSHA respirator requirements. If you recall, during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, N95 respirators were in short supply. Ensuring that people had high quality data to rely on before distributing a limited resources was essential. And finally, on more of a personal note related to third-party data, you have no control over server-side activities. During the car fire, the maps and background calculations changed midway through the event. Pointing people to a stable resource like your own website or fire.airnow.gov has been far more effective. What we did to improve. We created a positive feedback loop using comments from the public, web-based analytics, and other tools I mentioned earlier in the presentation. Using the input from our analytics, we've updated post categories to make it easier for people to find what they are looking for. And we've developed posts and articles to answer common questions. Our analytics has taught us that the little things matter. For example, people don't click on our messages if they don't have an image. Now we ensure that each post has either a chart or an image to ensure that our message is seen. We've modernized our website and beefed up our server and now point people to higher quality resources like fire.airnow.gov. Scattered throughout this presentation are photos from the Tehama County with a Mars-like atmosphere. This happened to be a day that the library had planned to drive through events so that families could get out and enjoy themselves. Most woke up thinking that the air quality was horrible. However, because of our data, combined with information we gathered from ARAs and the MET and monitoring staff at CARB, we're able to provide information the library needed to make the decision to keep their event open, because the air quality was in fact good. Finally, I want to point out that the longer air quality events like wildfires last, the more important your data becomes. After 30+ days of poor air quality, you can adapt and become nose blind to the smell of smoke. By day 30, days where the AQI is between 100 and 150 begin to look like nice ones. Having access to high quality data is essential throughout these month-long mega fires. So keep reducing your data, keep pushing out your advisories, and keep honing your messages so that people you work for can stay informed. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kevin and Joe. If you could go ahead and join me on camera, and then we can take a look at some questions that the audience members have. So let's see. Sorry, I'm just now seeing comments. If anyone has a question, please go ahead and use the Q&A chat box. I don't know if everyone saw this, but I'm seeing it for the first time. If you guys are having feedback or play issues, it might be helpful to view through Zoom.
we're going to get our messaging together and then get that information out to you guys. Sorry, it's been an interesting morning. Yeah, if anyone has any questions on the presentation for Kevin and Joe, please feel free to type that.
Question in chat.
Yeah.
I'll put my email address in the chat for you.
Thanks, Irene.
Another question in the chat.
I don't see a question, Sandra.
From Hien.
Oh, here we go. In your experience, how do you answer the public when new sensor data shows vastly different info than the traditional real-time monitors?
I can start with that, I guess. Mostly we talk about the differences in the quality of the instruments. We'll talk about the quality assurance programs that we have and how we ensure quality data. And it's definitely a step above for regulatory monitors compared to low-cost sensors. We also screen the data that we post on our website from low-cost monitors. Our air quality map does include them, but we require a certain number of stations in an area with low-cost monitors, and we will compare those before they're posted onto the map. And this all happens really quickly in real time. Joe, maybe you have some more experience with that.
Yeah, so when we talk to people about the low quality or the low cost sensors and the difference in air quality readings, we talk about the conversion picker. We try to show them, tell them what they should be using to get the most accurate scenario there by clicking on the EPA calibration factor that they have come up with. And we also talk about the various ways that low cost sensors can be deployed that can change how the data is shown, because there's really no control over where the public puts a low cost sensor. It could be over a barbecue pit, it could be over a fire pit, versus our sensors. We just tell them the process, the legal requirements of how our sites are calibrated weekly or monthly. They've got very strict design requirements for their locations, so they're not being influenced by local features, things like that. And I try to point them to a resource that's easier to consume, like the fire.airnow.gov is getting a lot better. So I think that now that they have sources like that, it's easier to get people to start utilizing that. Because I think part of the benefit of Purple Air is it's easy to get your message out there with that data. And so having an alternate resource with a map and additional informational layers has been useful for us.
I guess one other thing that we do as an agency is we cite a lot of our low-cost sensors. Purple Arrows have been very popular. We've cited a lot of those, and we tend to put them either at existing monitoring stations or places where we need extra coverage. That way we know they're cited well, and we give a higher priority to those stations that we've cited when we're mapping them into our system.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks, Joe. Well, it's 9:15. We are scheduled for a 15-minute break right now. Our next session is going to be network design, transition between filter-based FRM to continuous FEM. So that'll be at 9:30. If you guys have any questions for Joe or Kevin, feel free to reach them out on Feedloop or their email. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone.